Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best. Talk about some weird things. We're talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, and there's a lot of excitement in this country about the Toronto Blue Jays. Personally, I was never a big baseball fan. After covering them in spring training and having to talk to some of those jerks, I hated it. I shut down baseball. As I shut down bobsledding, as I shut down figure skating, they're knobs. I don't bother with them because...
Bobsledders are knobs?
Oh, geez, they were the worst. Oh, they were the worst. We've talked about that forever. That's why I didn't bother with them.
It's like an old grandfather.
You got treated like shit. You treat them like shit. That's the way it is.
The Pierre Luder guys?
Oh, absolutely. They're just jerks. Anyhow, baseball, Toronto, man, the offseason, what they've done there. And there's a cat on there that I want to talk about, this R.A. Dickey. Interesting story. Here's a guy, he gets some money as he's a young kid, doesn't make it, struggles, finds some time, writes a book about getting abused as a young person. He pulls on the heartstrings. He gets a chance, rips his arm up to shreds. So the only thing he can do to even think about pitching is come up with this trick pitch called the knuckleball, which historically we've seen a few guys do
He
it very...
He didn't invent it.
No, historically. But he came up with it for himself, put it into his own repertoire to make it... and it's led him to a Cy Young Award grant. Now he's with the Blue Jays. This guy is refreshing. He's intelligent, he's thoughtful, he doesn't take the game for granted, and he's humble. I want to see this guy do well. I want to see the Blue Jays do well because he's in their camp. So for the first time since, what, 94, it's exciting to be a Blue Jay fan.
He's a bit like Dave Stieb.
Bullshit.
I was being facetious.
Yes.
Dave Stieb writing a book, Tomorrow I'll Be Perfect. I know, perfect game and, you know, symbolic, but anyways. I heard him speak when he was in Toronto, and he was on radio there, on TV. Outstanding young man. 38 years old, young man to me. And as a knuckleballer, I guess maybe he can pitch a lot longer because it's not as damaging on the arm.
It isn't.
There is a lot of excitement around the Blue Jays. I'm getting a little tired of the excitement. I think Sportsnet, because they own the Blue Jay rights, they own the team, are really pushing it. They're really going over the top in doing shows and talking more about it. But they did go out and recruit a lot of free agents, make a big trade with, was it Florida Marlins? Or Miami Marlins, as they're called now. So it does look promising. Maybe we should just stop hyping this a little bit and let the games, you know, decide how much exciting it should be, because we've seen teams that buy Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox a couple of years ago, whoa, on paper looked great.
The Yankees, we've seen a lot of that over the past years. But they've won.
But it's going to be fun to start off watching the Blue Jays again.
Lord have mercy if they struggle right out of the gate, because that Toronto media will just start crying. I want to talk to you about the CFL grant, and in particular Jim Popp, the way he runs things as the GM of the Montreal Alouettes. Every year there's a vacancy south of the border. Every year his name comes up as a candidate to move. Doesn't get the job, but he's a candidate. And there's a reason why, because this guy wins. He's had a great winning program there. Sure, he's, Anthony Cavill's being his quarterback, but who brought Anthony Cavill out of a deathbed and into Montreal and pumped life into this guy's career after what he went through in Hamilton? Wasn't bad when he was with Las Vegas. I thought he showed a lot of promise, but goes to Hamilton and dies. But that's what he does. He goes outside of the box and hires a guy by the name,
Dan Harkins.
Dan Harkins. I don't know much about him other than he was a college guy and an ESPN announcer.
He's been, most recently a ESPN college TV analyst. I admire this guy, and I don't think the average fan identifies with general managers. But clearly they are the guys that really create, along with the director of player personnel, the personnel for coaches to coach and win championships. To me, Jim Popp always goes outside the box, and I've always wondered, why would you hire Mark Trestman? He has no experience in the CFL, but we often say that, or I used to say that if you don't have a guy with CFL experience, you're not going to win. Well, that's not the case anymore, and this is another example of that.
But it doesn't work in other places, Grant. Bart Andreas, for example, in Toronto, his arrogance just was seeping through, and he just did not have control of that team or very good talent.
So we have to ask Burke Dales when he's here next. What does a general manager do? What does Jim Popp do that enables that an inexperienced CFL coach to work. I don't have the answers for that. I'm impressed by his track record. How can you not be?
Well, they seem to find good quality players. An interesting thing is watching Hamilton trying to rebuild that defense that they have right now, signing everybody with a pulse that's on the free agent market.
Including a former Stampeder, Brian Bulkey?
Yes, yes. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this year. They had the offense, just didn't have any sense of clue what to do on defense last year and couldn't stop a goal.
You know, to counter what Jim Popp and the Alouettes does, or has done, and go outside the box and get these unknown coaches and that. A lot of CFL teams do the opposite, get the retreads all the time, and year after year, guys who've been around the CFL, and it doesn't work. So the culture Jim Popp creates around the Alouettes must be amazing.
Shouldn't be surprising, Grant, because you saw what Edmonton did in their glory years. They had stability, whether it was Norb Kimball and Hugh Campbell. They had great players, they drafted well, they got good Canadian talent, and they just won through the late 70s into the 80s. So, Wally Buono does it too. Whatever he did here and what he's doing there, right. A few people get it and they ride that success.
A perfect example of strong leadership create strong teams. You hire good people under you, there's a direction, there's a reason why we do it this way, and it creates winning.
That's why we're successful at Sports 11. No, never mind.
I meant here.
Best line ever. You got to tell this thing about Brent Sutter and Alex Tanguay. I think that's
getting
beautiful.
Back to the Flames.
Yeah.
If Mika Kiprasov was, first of all, was healthy and playing like typical Mika Kiprasov, and if the Flames' #1 line with Iginla, Tanguay, and Camilleri was on fire, I think this team is a top 8 team.
Yep.
It's not.
If.
Those things aren't happening. Iginla, we've talked about that every week. Something's not working. Alex Tanguay at times is dishing off the puck impressively. He's getting some points, except lately. A former coach of the Flames said to me,
whose name rhymes with Brent Sutter.
You can't give away those things.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
You try and protect your sources so they don't get embarrassed. You just say, a former Flame coach told me that if I'm going to war and Alex Tanguay is in my army, he's holding the flag. In other words, he doesn't have the paint on. He doesn't have the eye of the tiger. He's not there with the guns.
Don't give him a gun.
He likes that. So this guy, he like that? Hey, this guy over here agrees with me.
Finally, he said. He finally agrees with me.
He finally agrees with me.
I've been watching you for 30 friggin' years, and finally you said something that's smart.
And it goes back to the bigger picture of this team. They may have a little bit of skill, some or better skill. They don't have that grittiness. Grittiness from your top players to fight through crap to win.
Talking about leaders, one that passed away, Jerry Buss of the LA Lakers, Grant, one of the most flamboyant. I really wanted his life at one time. He leaves behind a few ex-wives and about 40 21-year-old girls. But really his legacy is what he's...
Amazing who your heroes are.
Oh, I just having fun. But what he's created in LA with the Laker franchise since he's owned it, and what he's brought flamboyant characters in there. Phil Jackson has come back so many times because of his relationship with him. Well, the fact that he's with his daughter certainly doesn't hurt. But all this, Grant, is Jerry Buss. And he's kind of like Al Davis of the football team before he went nuts. He had created that whole sizzle with that team that has run over the years. No matter if they're bad or not, you pay attention to the Lakers.
Sizzle with style and
sure,
talent.
Absolutely.
Not just sizzle, because that's one thing, like a Larry Rickman type, just selling the sizzle, but not creating. When I look, when did he...
Knowing what you're talking about, is that what you wanted to say? That's perhaps what you missed.
When did he take over? In the 70s, Jerry Buss, in the 70s? Well, if I think that far back, basketball to me was kind of a boring, it was
dangerous. They have drugs running rampant.
No, but
it was just a bad times.
But there was no, like you talked about sizzle, nothing really stood out. To me, when Jerry Buss, from what I can recall, I wasn't a big basketball fan, took over the Lakers, it created some excitement. He created what's called showtime with the Lakers, and it was exciting. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and so Magic Johnson and so many great players. to succeed in Hollywood, to succeed in LA, and that transferred all over the continent,
sure.
North America. It was bigger than life, so it made them big money. And I remember when I was the host of Flames on 2 and 7, my studio was not a real studio, was the LA Lakers dressing room. And I saw a bus walking around, and I was so impressed. These were stars, bigger than life to me. And I applaud Jerry Buss for his Playboy lifestyle. That was one thing, but he created quality sports entertainment that made money, that won championships. And I think that should be the template for all sports teams.
Got the stars were actually out in full force watching the Lakers. It was to be seen. You know you'd made it when you had front row tickets at a Laker game.
And they won, though.
Yeah, sure.
So it was the whole package. Kind of like what Bruce McNall did on the short term with the LA Kings, where the stars were coming. They were winning a little bit. You know, they were doing okay. He just couldn't sustain that. Didn't have the...
It's tough to operate a team from jail.
Yes.